Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Fawn.
What's up, everybody? Herschel Fawn here from High School Top 200. Welcome back to the Monday morning meeting. It's been a good weekend. I hope everyone's safe from all those winds, all those mini hurricanes and all that kind of stuff that's been going on. Also, there's been a few games that have been postponed because of too many people sick. So, hope everyone's staying healthy and safe and at least trying to follow the rules, I guess. We can get a bit sick of them after a while. But there was a few strong games that I went to this week, and also the ones that I watched, or that I've watched so far. I still haven't got through all of them yet. Please keep adding me or sending me games. It's been real helpful being able to see all the rest of the talent that's all around the country. One thing I want to talk about, and I just kind of want to start this off with, is I'm not too sure what it is, because some of you fellas just don't like wearing mouth guards. And I don't know why. I don't know why you guys don't like wearing mouth guards. And it's so strange to me because, you could just look at my generation. Look at all your dads and uncles and stuff that don't have teeth. There's only like two reasons why they probably don't have teeth. The first one is probably they're getting into fights at nightclubs and pubs and stuff like that. The other one is probably because they didn't wear mouth guards when they were playing rugby or league. Because you don't really have to wear them. I think when I was at school, they just started bringing that in, but it wasn't really it wasn't pushed and wasn't really governed that hard out. But now you get a yellow card if you don't have a mouth guard. And so I'm not too sure why you guys would not leave the changing rooms without a mouth guard. When we got prepared for our games on Saturdays and stuff, our rule by our coach, Peter Nordstrom, was always that you have clean boots and you always have your mouth guard and headgear ready and get strapped up. A lot of those things were like tick-off boxes, before we ran out on the field. And there was a team that there was 6 people without mouth guards, I counted. 6 people without mouth guards. How do you not? I don't understand how you don't have a mouth guard. They're not expensive. Well, I don't think so. I don't know, do you guys want your teeth? Or do you guys want to stay protected? It also helps you with your concussions and taking hits and stuff too. One of my mates, mate of mine, Hiram Martin, who lives here, he's a dentist, and he makes mouth guards. And he does, I think he does personal mouth guards and one's custom made just for you kind of thing too. And I think with the way that you guys are built, and I'm talking to you fellas, the way that you guys are built, you're much bigger, faster, stronger, a lot more explosive, a lot more bigger collisions and powerful, more powerful hits than what we're used to. And so all these hits that you guys are doing, if you cop one in the mouth, man, your fronts are gone. That's kind of the way that I see it. Your fronts are just gone, and you guys are 16, 17, and you won't have any front teeth with some of the hits that some of you guys do. And so I don't understand why. But even, I guess, in a team aspect, right? You would probably think there's I don't want to spend 10 minutes on the sideline. So I'm just going to take my mouth guard. And there's a difference between having your mouth guard in and not having a mouth guard. Like, I can understand if you guys, sort of get lost in it and then have it in your sock, and then the ref goes, oh, where's your mouth guard? You're like, oh, shoot, I got it in my sock. To not even having a mouth guard on the field. Which is strange, because then you're running off and you're going, bro, can I borrow your mouth guard? Bro, no. That would be my answer. If I was a reserve, I'd be like, no, I'm not having your flipping gross ass mouth on my mouth guard. I'll be like, yeah, come do 10 minutes and then not go on for the rest of the game, because I'm not giving my mouth guard to you. Which is so strange. I don't understand it. But that was one of the strange things that happened, like, over the past... I've seen it from even last year too, but one of the games I went to, there was 6 people that I counted. And I don't know what it is. It's a weird thing, to be honest, but oh well. The game started off on Monday. And, was it Monday or Tuesday? It was Tuesday. With Nelson going down to Timaru. And, what I thought would be a hard-fought game, but sort of blowout at the end a little bit, was Nelson College winning that game. I didn't think it would turn out the way that I saw it, and I watched it too, and Nelson scored 2 quick tries right in the beginning. Within 7 minutes, there was 2 tries. Almost a third one within 12 minutes. But then the way Timaru fought back was pretty interesting too, because there was nothing flash about what they were doing. There was nothing complicated about how they were playing it. Bede Fisher wasn't playing, who's their best player at prop. He wasn't playing. But I just felt that, like, the longer the game went on, Nelson got worse. And they fell away from what their game plan was. Because they had, like, a really good structure right in the beginning. They made sure that the forwards played quick. They played real strong over the breakdown. Didn't waste too many players. Had pods set up either side. And whenever they were crashing into the defense, it was all done physically. It was done physically and at pace. Everyone was set. They were so organized, and then it wasn't after that third time they went for a try and they missed, and they didn't get it. As the game went on, it just started falling off, and I guess the way that Timaru played, it was kind of. It was organized. It was organized at the same time. It was kind of strange because, I was watching some of the boys, and Ben, the number 8, who's their captain as well. He was. He was very good. Like, he was very good on the day. Ned, what's his name, Milne, and Toby, Clement, the first 5. They were, all 3 of them played at the slow pace. Weren't gaining much meters, but were gaining small meters at a time. Kalapuli, who's their Tofa, who's their winger, he's scored 2 of their tries. And I think Joe Fatai at fullback also had a strong game in terms of making sure that there was a lot of cover on that outside and a lot of ball play to get the ball to Cully, because there was always just that extra on the outside. And one of Cully's tries was like a chip and chase and just gathered it and did it all himself. But the others were just based around spreading the ball, but making sure that there was no threat, or there was no like pushing passes. They played to sort of the percentages kind of thing, in terms of everything was played safe and played slow, but also gaining little bits of ground here and there at a time. Where on the other side, Nelson were trying to, like, Nelisone was he was trying to push. Like, I could see what he was doing, but at the same time he was trying to push, I guess, passes and plays that weren't there. And I guess, I mean, I can understand where he's coming from, because when he's got a year 11 first five, and I guess you're trying to take the load off him, because like Harrison Inshu started the game as only year 11, and then Nelisone's is the year 12, and then Timmy is at centre, and Nelisone and Timmy did most of the attacking in terms of the back line, and rightfully so, they should have. But I felt like they kind of pushed too much stuff. The forward pack were okay. Like they played, like I said, they played fast and they played quick. They were really organised. But as the game wore on, it just kind of slowed down, and it kind of felt a bit. I mean, open side. Jason eFootball was like a guy that I really liked in the game, who was great in the lineouts, played a lot in the rucks, made a lot of tackles, and like him and Dane Leppin were really good. I did like the two, like Devontae Meredith and Henny Favai. But I felt they were just missing something, and maybe it's that long ass drive, because it's a long ass drive down there. You know, it's a lot of time. But the way that Timaru came back, I thought was really, like, it wasn't the most exciting game, not at all. But when you crawl back, to win like that, I think that deserves a lot of, kudos on the heart kind of game, and even a celebration, because they really weren't supposed to win that one. I mean, I didn't think that Timaru would win that. I thought Nelson was maybe a bit too strong. Had the individuals and stuff like that, but I mean, that's just kind of how the rugby goes. And so, I give it up to them in that way, that they were able to pull that game out. The Southland game against Otago on the Wednesday, Southland winning wasn't really a surprise. I think the way that it was done, from the clips that I've seen, where it was the forwards really dominating the game. The edges for Otago were not quite secure. Maybe the defense around that edge, maybe trying to push across, and things like that. Maybe could have done better, because from all the stuff that I heard from the three people that were down there, sending me stuff and sending me clips and pictures and little reports and stuff like that. Thanks very much for that, because it really helped. I thought they were going to live stream it somewhere, but they just didn't. But I mean, something must be wrong with Otago, because I mean, losing to Southland is not a big deal, because Southland's such a good side. Otago lose to them sometimes anyway. It's not that much of a big deal. Southland even beat Christchurch Boys, who was Christchurch's just the strongest team right now, and so there's a lot of merit to Southland winning that game. But then it goes on to Otago on the Saturday, and them almost losing to Waitaki Boys, who is not really supposed to be in that vicinity of them kind of trying to win. Now, I know that Otago Boys is young, or got a younger team, but they're not supposed to struggle like this. It's never been like this. It's never even been close to something like this before. And so something has gone wrong. Maybe it is the sickness down there and the kids being held back, and maybe kids haven't been seen right now, but I don't know. It's just not really. It's kind of like Hamilton Boys being bad. Well, I mean, like it's kind of weird too, because Otago is struggling right now, and they've never really struggled ever before that I've ever heard of. And Auckland Grammar is also the same way; they're struggling too, which is like a never ever before seen or heard kind of thing. I even asked my dad, who was in the first team back in the 60s, I said, "You ever heard of Auckland Grammar struggling before?" He goes, "No. To be honest, I haven't. I've never heard of them being, a struggling side, struggling to have numbers side." Otago Boys is, to me, and as much as I've ever known, have never struggled to have a side that can't compete. And right now it looks like that they can't compete. And I'm not trying to get at any of the players or anything like that. But the reports are that they're finding hard to compete. And whether it is youth, and if it's youth, then everyone's got to watch out for them next year. But if it's not, then something is wrong. And that's going to be sad for what is usually a deep south stronghold. I mean, obviously John McGlashan right now is the strongest team in the Otago comp, and maybe in the South Island too. Maybe they are the team to beat in the South Island. But I mean, like the number one team in the country almost had a loss yesterday on Saturday. They almost, they were almost scared of losing that Moeska Cup to St. John's Hamilton, just winning 40-34, and they were going back at it, back and forth, scoring, one after the other, and that's not Rotorua going bad, but that's also St. John's building. They're building a rugby academy and a rugby school here that's in Hamilton, and this is just Hamilton alone, that you could go to besides Hamilton Boys. I mean, St. Paul's Collegiate, you can go there too, but that's a lot of money. I don't know how much people have that kind of money to go there, but St. John's is more affordable, great education as well, and they've got great rugby. And I know that some of the boys that usually would go to Hamilton Boys have opted not to and gone to St. John's, and so maybe that's something to think of. And I know a lot of boys in Hamilton that don't want to go to Hamilton Boys because of how cutthroat it is, end up making their name at St. John's College, and it's actually working out. And you can tell by them really standing up. I mean, they beat Kelston already. Their two trial teams that they had against St. Peter's and Auckland, and also Tauranga Boys, were a mixed trial team. But if they had, I feel like if they played their strongest teams, I feel like they could take out St. Peter's and they can take out Tauranga. And I mean, that's the reason why I've got them ranked so high in the top 5. And then that's just like a conversation for myself in terms of, even though they lost the number one team, they lost by 6 points, does that deserve a drop back in rankings? Or do they stay there? Are they in the right place? Because I don't feel like they can lose. I don't feel like they can lose in the CNI unless they play fielding. And even then, that's a toss-up of even if they lose, because they might win. And if they lose, do they lose like they lost to Rotorua, where it's 5, 6, 7 points? 10 points is even like a comfortable kind of loss too. Like, I don't find 10 points a lot of points at all. I don't find that a big gap in any kind of scoreline. And so it's like, those are kind of one of the questions too that I'm asking, is just like, well, for myself, is like, do St. John's sit there? Do they sit there at 5, or do they move back, or do they drop back down the rankings a little bit? I'm not too sure if that's, even if I'm asking the right question. Because maybe the question's even wrong too. It's like, do they deserve to stay there, or is it, do they deserve another shot? Maybe do they deserve to go up? Maybe they deserve to go up. Maybe that is enough proof to say that, well, yeah, St. John's is better than a 5 ranking. Maybe they're a 3 ranking. Maybe they're a 4 ranking. Because Hamilton Boys and Hastings are the other ones that you kind of have to look out for. I mean, like, St. Kennigan's just lost against Mags, which was one of the big upsets. And kind of one of the big upsets, but kind of and kind of not. St. Kitts went through this last year, lost the TV game right in the first game. I think came back to one in the second, lost the third, and then they kind of went down. St. Kitts have just got to lift themselves back up. That's all it really is. Like, they had 2 hard games. Win the rest is kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying is like, go on a winning streak. Having St. Peter's and having Mags is 2 hard games in a row. It's not a surprise. It's like an upset, but not a surprise, because Mags is getting better. The fact that Mags have to play Hamilton Boys in the beginning of the season is exactly what they should do every single year. I think every single team in New Zealand should probably play Hamilton just before your season starts to really find out where you are. Hamilton Boys actually don't play a lot of preseason games at all. But I mean, if you are lucky enough to get one, I would play a game against them and go, okay, let's just measure ourselves up on where we're supposed to be. Like, is that a good level of where we're supposed to be as them? Because for Mags, it's paid off. Two times in a row now, like 2 years in a row, it's paid off. Palmy's also the other one that lost. I mean, I wrote about this before, and Silverstream getting some kind of pride back for the whole of Wellington, because it hasn't really worked out for them in these preseason games and that transit competition, that coach line competition that they play, and it hasn't really worked out. And Silverstream's been the only sort of shining light in terms of a team that showed up. And then they all did it again, and they went to Palmy and did it, which is great. Manuel Solomon had a great game. Sunil had a great game. Lennox had a good game. I really liked what he did. Toby Mellon had a good game. The first 5, Maui, I think it is, he also had a pretty good game too. And Emmanuel to me, he just destroyed Palmy Boys. They just weren't able to stop him. They couldn't stop his offloads. They couldn't stop, him bending that line, that defensive line, and then looking for those supporting runners, and he just challenged them every single time, and Palmy just couldn't stop him at all. Like, it didn't help that Tane Harvey got injured right sort of in the first few minutes, but still, they still should have been able to, I guess, really... I mean, like, Palmy did stop them for the majority of the game, and they scored right at the end. But I felt like, even though they were stopping them on defense, they weren't really attacking at the same time. And I wish that they got a lot more, because they had opportunities. The wind was terrible as well, which is the other thing. And whoever used the wind right was always going to get sort of that kind of advantage you get from a stronger wind at your backs. But I just felt when Palmy had the ball, they weren't attacking, and that scrum really has to, I guess, get and do some work before Super 8 starts, because that Silverstream scrum was just powerful. And there was one scrum right towards the end of the game, even at like the most tiredest points of your game, Silverstream just crumbled them. It really was just crumbling them, like a flat paper just crumbled. That's kind of what it seemed like, because it was just an engage. Right when that ball was put in, it was just a domino that fell backwards, and Silverstream was going forward, and it was just, it was real hard to watch, actually. But I mean, that's going to be the movements. I mean, Mags is obviously going to move up. Palmy is obviously going to move down. St. Kitts is going to move down. Silverstream's going to move up. Which means Christchurch Boys is going to move up because they had a great win on Saturday too against St. Thomas, which also kind of brings the King's College game into consideration too, in terms of how De La Salle looks having a draw against King's College too. And that's like really important, because then, and just to give some kind of explanation to those who don't really follow, or it was the first time following this, is that your strength of roster also can go for you and against you. In terms of the teams that you have beaten, all the teams they have beaten also counts towards how you start to look in terms of how strong your team is. All the teams you lose to also can be a positive and a negative, because if you lose to a good team, you don't lose by much, like St. John's, to me, it poses me the question, be like, oh, they must be all right. But if you lose to a team that's also lesser than you, and then who are like ranked behind you, but you lose by a margin which seems pretty big, then it brings up questions of like, okay, so how were these other wins that they actually had? How good was those wins actually? It puts into question all those other things that you've done within your resume, I guess, as the year goes on. And then even if teams that there's a triangle winning of one beating the other and all that kind of stuff, you can still be able to say, well, this team beat this team, and that beat this team beat this team. But then you start to branch off and look at all the other wins and losses and go, wow, maybe that was just a good game for them. Because by the other wins and loss column, it doesn't look like they were great anyway, just had a good day. That kind of thing. And that's why the rankings are important, because it's not just about, well, I'm going to win and then I take the spot that you've got. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's not like an individual sport. It's not that kind of thing. There's so many different factors that go into this and go into a win, and also they go into a loss. And that's something that I've found over the years of doing first team rugby, is that sometimes it doesn't matter that things that are just pertaining to the field does not matter sometimes. Sometimes it is off the field stuff. Sometimes it is sometimes there's been times where when I've seen guys have bad games, and then I ask, some of the teammates, they go, bro, what's up with this dude on the day? And they go, bro, he just broke up with his missus. Oh, that's understandable. Oh, this guy's been talking about his social media pages and blah, blah, blah. I say, oh, okay, then. And it's like, well, that sounds right. And then, or like it would be schooling stuff, or, faculty stuff, home problems, things like that. All those things kind of matter, and that go into these kind of, to the results that you kind of get. So, sometimes it's not always as easy. Well, if you're going to have a ball, try and plan your ball around a bye, because none of your boys are going to care about the rugby game at all. It doesn't matter how big your rugby game is. A lot of the boys will not care. They care about whether their suit is in there. They care whether their transport is ready. They care whether the missus is going to show up, or the girl that they ask is going to show up. They worry about like the after party, all that kind of stuff. Rugby is probably the last thing on your mind. So to me, anytime I hear that someone's having a ball on the Friday night or the Saturday night, I was like, oh, well, they're probably going to lose. They better have the easiest game that they can schedule, because they're not going to win that one. and it's most of the time it's a loss. But yeah, kind of how it is. I guess one of the other defining games within this was the St. Bede's in Christchurch and then Christ College, because especially down in Christchurch, those kind of teams matter. So they had the big matchups of St. Bede's, Christ College, Christchurch Boys, and St. Thomas, and now it sort of has that you're starting to find all these little gaps. St. Thomas beating St. Bede's, Christchurch and Christ College play soon. I think it's next week or the week after. Oh no, it might be this coming week. I've got to check. But those things are going to be the defining ones, and you can start to see sort of a gap wedging into that Miles Toyota Cup, and you know that's just going to be one of those ones that we want to look out for. Of course, Otago Boys only just beating Waitaki 22-20. Manurewa had a good one against Whangarei Boys. Rewa won 21-8. Sacred Heart winning over Auckland Grammar 46-22. Massive score. I think the other ones that you kind of want to look at in terms, I mean, like, for example, like in the CNI, one of the ones that stuck out to me was that Whanganui Collegiate and St. Peter's game. I thought St. Peter's were a stronger team. I thought they were a stronger team than Whanganui Collegiate, but obviously it looks like they're not. 26-19, obviously a really close game. That also sort of changes the landscape within that back end of the top 50 teams. Also changes the landscape of the CNI competition, and sort of how I look at it too, because I kind of saw St. Peter's as one of the stronger teams, Whanganui Collegiate as one of the middle teams, but it's now starting to merge. It's starting to merge, and what I saw from St. Paul's Collegiate as well is that there's going to be a gap. There might be a pretty big gap between with Fielding and St. John's, and then you have the St. Paul's, St. Peter's, Whanganui Collegiate, Wesley, and then you have the other ones down the bottom. And I think if they're not careful within that group, it's gonna be a struggle for teams to keep that competition close, and then St. John's and Fielding are probably going to end up in the finals if they don't keep their competition close. And that's kind of what I'm looking at too. Is that like, are they going to be able to have a good competition, or is it just going to be a two-team competition? Which is not something that we've seen in a while. Like, there's been some good teams, but they've always been challenged. And if the competition's is not careful this year, it could be one of those runaway for those two teams. Counties competition is different. It's Hauraki Plains is in there playing. Tuakau had a good win. Alfriston, Rosehill College is taking a bit of a fall from what they were last year, they were pretty good last year. But Pukekohe is also the same. I saw them on the other field when I was at St. Paul's Collegiate, and they were playing St. Paul's second 15, and they got a win out of that one. One of the bigger ones, and like, this may not mean anything to you guys out there, but in the Waikato it does. But Rototuna High School beat Cambridge High School first 15, 22-14. And Cambridge is actually one of the stronger ones within the Waikato in terms of a rugby team. Rototuna has only had a school for like 3 years. Now, a lot of you guys won't know Hamilton, but there's a big area out in Rototuna that's sort of opening up to new housing and development and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of people moving here to Hamilton, and Rototuna is one of the new schools, and there's so many kids within the area that are now gone over to Rototuna, and if Hamilton ends up growing, Rototuna looks like it's going to be one of those strong sports schools, just by chance, and they're going to be pretty well funded because there's a lot of rich families moving in out there too. But for them to be so new and then to beat a team like Cambridge, who's pretty well established here in Waikato, is really, really good. Is really, really good to see how fast they've actually done it. And it's going to be interesting to see how well they can go within this competition here in Waikato too. They still haven't sort of divided the divisions and put all the ones together that they feel like is going to be a strong one, because Matamata is a team that they're probably all going to have to go against. But Tokoroa had a good win. Morrinsville as well had a good win. Tikawiti had another big win over St. Paul's third 15 team 32-0. And the scoreline is really important with that one too, 32 points. I mean, Anton Walker, who's out there, who's the big lock prop combination kind of guy. He's more of a lock. I mean, if he was playing in one of these bigger teams, I would make him a prop. Such a big, strong guy, real busy. Does a lot around the rucks. Does all the dirty work that you kind of want him to do, and so he's one of those kind of guys. But he's the one out there that's sort of their best player out there, and it means a lot to that team as well. Forest View had a good win over Hillcrest, and Otorohanga had a win over Melville. And so over the next week or so, we're going to see the divisions and how they're going to match these teams up, which is going to be pretty important to see how competitions become, I guess, a lot stronger. And then you'll be able to see, I guess, who the good ones are in that competition. I still think that they should have a combined team here. Maybe two of them and like 2 or 3 of them. Because there's like too many, there's terrible teams as a whole, but there's a lot of good individuals. That's kind of the honest truth of it. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll just see how that goes. And Thames Valley, Mercury Bay Area School won again against Waihi College, which is like a better matchup. And Paeroa beat Te Aroha College 37-15 as well. And there needs to be like a small school competition. Because I feel like some of these teams can really can be really good against each other if I guess if they had competition to play against, and most of these country schools are all kind of around the same level of talent, and so it would be pretty cool to see a lot of them go up against each other. I mean, Western Heights and Bay of Plenty and Western Heights, they got a win too. But Mount Mananui College is probably like one of those ones that are really, really good this year for a small school, kind of like what Matamata is. And so it would be interesting to see what Matamata is like, or what Mount Manganui College is like against Matamata. I mean, Mount Manganui, they've got what's his name, Jay Knight, who was at the Chiefs camp last year as a centre, but he plays number 8 for his school. Their prop Reese Klein, and then who's a prop, and then they got this Trent Morrison kid who's a lock. He's also really good, and they have a halfback Chamberlain guy, Ethan Chamberlain. He's the other one too, and so they have a really good pack. But it would be cool to see what they would be like against a team like Matamata, who's also a country school, and they're sort of like at that higher level of country schools as well. But I feel like Mount Manganui is going to go through sort of their Bill Hill Cup division in Bay of Plenty, and probably won't come away with a loss unless they just don't compete with Rotorua Boys second 15, because the Rotorua Boys second 15 and Tauranga Boys second 15 are really, really strong, and so that's who Mount Maunganui kind of has to compete with. But that's just kind of the way it is, I guess. People have always asked me to include second 15s. I was like, well, I really can't, because there'll be a bunch of second 15s around the country that would beat a lot of first 15s. That's kind of the honest truth about it. Is kind of how it is. But yeah, John Paul College, they had a good win as well, which was a pretty big win. So did Papamoa. Otumotai is the other one, beating Tongariro, and they're a third. Otumotai is a third division team that I feel like should be maybe in the first division with the big scores that they have. I mean, they scored 65-5. That doesn't really sound like a Division 2 team. Sounds like a Division 1 team. Maybe they should be playing the Mount and Rotorua Boys second 15, like that kind of thing. Hawera had a good win in Taranaki against Opunaki High School. And all the other scores I didn't find because they just didn't put them up, which is really hard. And Wellington, I wrote about this, and I think I called all the winners, and they all did win. With Hibs, Mana College, Wairarapa, and Upper Hutt winning. And they all won. I wish they would take Bishop Viard in. I wish they would take Hutt Valley, and I have a feeling Hutt Valley pulled out of it. I don't know if that's fair to say. No, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something, but I don't think it's fair because I don't really know. I just know that a few teams have done that down there before, and it just wasn't the right feeling, I guess. But yeah, I feel like Hutt Valley High School is also a Premiership 1 kind of team. I think they match up really well with Hibs and Mana College and Wairarapa, Upper Hutt, but there is only so many spots. But then Bishop Viard, I feel like should be up the top as well. Taita College won. Paraparaumu won by default. Kapiti College lost by default, and Nainai College won, which was good. Nainai College winning as well, 37-24 over Scots College second 15. One of the other surprising games was St Andrews and Marlborough Boys. Marlborough Boys winning 31-15 over St Andrews, which is a massive surprise to me of not by the loss, by the scoreline, really. 31-15. 31's a lot of points to give away. And it's hard to, I guess, well, I've always said it before too. It's hard to be a private school and be able to have a bench and know where your players are coming from, because it's just hard to get kids to go to your school when it's a private school. It's just hard. It's not the easiest thing to pay for. But that's the thing that private schools go through, is that they may have a strong starting 15, but their bench is pretty weak. They just don't have the bench players, just don't have the guys throughout the school where Christchurch Boys and Shirley Boys, they can just bring through players, and they just have so many players that they can go to. Marlborough Boys have so many players they can go to. Marlborough Boys have a big, they have a really solid team this year anyway. A lot of those boys that came back from last year have really, I guess, bought into the the vision, I guess you could say, the vision of what the coaching staff are looking for. Because, someone like Jack Pacey, who's the second five for them. Him and Cooper Roberts are still there. Both really good, solid players. They were there last year as well. But then they also have... Sorry, so they... there's a strong squad over there at Marlborough Boys. They have a lot of players in there. They have good returning players. Like I said, Jack Pacey, also Cooper Roberts. They have Jack Kelly, who's in there. Sione Papani is also there. I like guys like that. Even Charles Tupu Tor, who's the other one. Tupu Tor is the other one that's there at number 8. And I think that they have enough guys that can actually get them through all those hard games, because once those guys come off the bench, there's enough guys on the bench that have been in those situations that they can actually get them through those harder games where they need to finish strong. And I think that's what teams like St. Andrews miss, is those teams that can actually bring on the bench and have a performance that is the same. Selwyn Combine is also doing the same thing. A little bit lower of a score against Akaroa Combined, only winning 22-12. But Selwyn Combine needs to get more of those wins under their belt, get the feeling of winning and knowing what that's like, and then being able to learn from those kind of games. Shirley Boys having a big win over Rangiora High School as well, which is like another big thing for Shirley Boys with some of the players that they've got, some of those young boys. South Otago winning against Tyree College. I think should have won by a bit more. I mean, it's good to get the win, but from my side, I always kind of have like a score roundabout which I think that they should win. And with the side that South Otago has, I thought it would just be a little bit more. I thought another 10 points would be more of what I was talking about in terms of how I thought their win would be. And then Dunstan High School over Wakatipu High School. And I thought Wakatipu High School was going to be, Dunstan's a good school, but I thought Wakatipu was going to be one of the ones this year to sort of watch out for. Only because, because I've been building for a few years now, Wakatipu, they've been able to, not just get a lot of the boys to stay, but get a lot of the boys that have been in rep teams. Tama Nix is one of those guys who's moved from lock to open side, and I guess they just have to be a bit more patient with guys that move position. I mean, they have a front row that's been there for a second year in a row now. They got Max Few, Thomas Hutzman, Spencer Wilkins is the other guy. Who are the other guys? Connor McIsaac and Fletcher Marshall, who are the 9. Fletcher's the 9 and Connor's the 10. And those kind of guys are there from last year, and they should be, they should be experienced enough. I mean, they have this fullback Harrison Miller, who's really, really good, really solid player, as well as Tyler Harris and Morris Finnegan, who's the other. Morris Finnegan, I think his name is. And these guys are a good back three. There's another guy I'm thinking of. Hold on, I don't want to miss his name out, because I know that he's part of it too. Because I know that they've got a lot of that backline back from last year, and a lot of those guys made. Sorry, I'm looking for the name. A lot of these guys made the under 16s as well, And here we go. So I was right. Fletcher Marshall's at 9. Connor McIsaac is at 10. Mason Boone, Bond. Sorry, Mason Bond is on one wing. So Mason Bond and Morris Finnegan are the two wingers, and then you have Harrison Miller, who's the fullback, and those three together, the way that they work is what you're kind of wanting for a back three that can substitute and move back and forth, not be too selfish, be able to follow through with kicks and chase downs, all that kind of stuff too. So those three there are the ones that I was talking about, and being able to give you the back three that you want, real safe, good runners, all that kind of stuff. Then you have Tyler Harris. Obviously, that was the guy I was talking about before. Tyler Harris at centre. Xavier Small is the one that's the new guy to the back line. But everyone from pretty much... Max Colton's the one that I missed at 6. So pretty much everyone back, everyone from this team is back almost in their starting 15. They're either back from starting or they were on the bench and now moved to the starting. So there's a lot of experience. But I feel like they should have kicked on probably a lot better than what they have been. And so hopefully in this, in the second rounds of their games, that they pick it up a lot and they start putting it all together, because they have a good team, and I think that they can do a lot with the team that they have. Dunstan is also going to be one of those sides too that is probably looking for another good solid year this year. They'll probably end up in the first division, Dunstan will, and so I guess we'll see. You'll see how well they do. Like, you can't really always, fault them for that. But I mean, I guess everyone's going to be looking at Otago boys and say, well, let's give us a crack to see what's going on and if we can actually get close to beating them. Because I mean, Waitaki did it. Waitaki boys did it, and so everyone's going to want to have a go at them too, because Waitaki did it. And I mean, that's understandable. Usually when you see those kind of games, you're like, oh well, if they can do it, we can do it. Waikitupi's going to be asking the same question. Dunstan's going to be asking the same question. South Otago's going to be asking the same question as well. It's like, well, if those guys can do it, then we're going to do it as well. And we're going to try and get the win, for sure. But yeah, that's what I got for today. The new Year 11 rankings are going to come out as well. That's something that I'm going to put together from watching all these games. So we'll have a new top 100 first 15 rankings as we do weekly, and then the new top 60 Year 11s will also come out, and then on Wednesday we'll have our team of the week. And I'm going to add refs to this because I saw 2 really good refs that I really, really liked, and I think refs don't really get that much of a shout out at all. So the 2 refs that I saw in the games that I went to, I thought that they were really good, and if I can find out their names, then I'll give them a shout out. But if I can't, and then I just, by chance, I'll just put the game down that they reffed, and then go from there. But social forum from High School Top 200. Later, ball.